Hi, my name is Arnold from the Pay Ashley Back program, and I will be affirming the resolution. The question of abolishing prisons must also question a fundamental model of white supremacy that is built upon the violence targeted against black, indigenous, and orientalized peoples. White supremacy views these people of color as inherent criminals, and society itself is built upon a racist exploitation inherent to each intersection of white supremacy. According to Andrea Smith in 2010, white supremacy is constituted by the three interrelated logics, and first being slaveability or anti-black racism, which anchors capitalism, two is genocide, which anchors colonialism, and three is Orientalism, which anchors war. The logic of slavery renders black people as inherently enslavable as nothing more than property. Blackness becomes equated with slaveability. That is, the capitalist system ultimately commodifies it all. The logic of slavery applies a racial hierarchy to the system. This racial hierarchy tells people that as long as you are not black, you have the opportunity to escape the commodification of capitalism. A second pillar is the logic of genocide. This logic holds that indigenous peoples must disappear, and they must always be disappearing. Through the logic of genocide, non-native peoples then become the rightful inheritors of all that is indigenous. Land, resources, and culture. Genocide serves as the anchor of colonialism. A third pillar of white supremacy is the logic of Orientalism. Orientalism defining itself as a superior civilization by constructing itself in opposition to an exotic but inferior Orient. The logic of Orientalism marks certain peoples or nations as inferiors and deems them a constant threat to the well-being of empire. Next, the prison industrial complex is the current manifestation of white supremacy as it constitutes the way in which law enforces itself within the U.S. and around the world, and manifests itself in a constant violent warfare. And only an abolition of prisons is key to any social justice progress that allows for people of color's lives to be seen as valuable and not subject to lawful death like Walter Scott or Corey Canish. According to Dylan Rodriguez in 2010, behind the din of progressive reformist struggles over public policy and law, there is an unspoken politics of assumption that takes for granted the permanence of domestic warfare as a constant production of targeted massive suffering, guided by the logic of black, brown, and indigenous subjugation to the essential violence of the American nation-building project. Despite the unprecedented level of the imprisonment, social and political repression, and violent policing that compose the mosaic of our historical time, the establishment left does not care to envision the abolition of U.S. domestic warfare and its structuring white supremacist social logic as its most urgent task of the present and future. How could we live with ourselves in this domestic state of emergency to forfeit radically challenging and transforming the ideological and institutional premises of these conditions of domestic warfare in favor of a short-term winnable policy reforms? Radical accountability reflects a variation on anti-colonial liberation. And now that we are in the heat of combat, we must shed the habit of feigning incomprehension at their silence or passiveness. Thus, I affirm that this House should abolish prisons. This action can only be done through the recognition of a radical framework of social justice tied around the radical accountability against the racism that upholds how Muslim or black peoples can be seen as terrorists or thugs. Our critique of the larger system of white supremacy is fundamental to any action that seeks this social justice. According to David Gilbert in 2010, as the system enters deeper crisis or alternatively limps along the giant unresolved problems, new space must open up for us as the old ways are discredited. To build an effective national movement, we must directly challenge the attacks on immigrants, prisoners, and welfare recipients, not only as a matter of fundamental justice, but also because these arenas are crucial for blunting the strategic spearhead for right-wing mobilization. The prison industrial complex constitutes a sobering aspect of the problem. Now, significant vested interests have been created to be a spark plug for the larger political engine of racial scapegoating. If we do not challenge the larger system, the prison industrial complex remains a solid foundation. In short, we're likely to face a very challenging period ahead with great opportunities and challenge, and an anti-imperialist framework and effort is crucial to any qualitative advance for prison industrial complex abolition. Thank you.